or could it be seen as a positive for him?
Rise from the streets of San Antonio to a national attraction.
And Tony was such a hit, they could make up to $200 a night on the monies thrown into the ring in appreciation.
It was already clear that Tony was the best of the brothers. At 16, he won the 1979 National Golden Gloves. A year later, he missed his shot at Olympic gold because of the U.S. boycott. Instead, Tony turned pro.
Let's welcome the talented Texan, Tony El Torito Ayala!
He was so successful in the junior middleweight division that 2 years after turning pro, he had already earned more than $500,000 and had a record of 22-0 with 19 knockouts. Ayala was now the #1 contender and was being mentioned in the same breath with Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Giving up 4 inches in height, and he's got Maquinano with the left hand!
Life in the ring was good for Tony Ayala. It was rare that opponents lasted more than a few rounds against him. But outside the ring, it was Tony who was taking the beating.
I grew up fast, using alcohol on the weekends. And by the age of 12, I was already mainlining heroin. I was no longer a virgin, and I was, for all intents and purposes, living as an adult.
When he turned pro at 17, that's when the money was there, and that's when he really began to use more. And this afternoon, I guess you'll train?
Lisa Ayala met her husband, Tony, when they were both kids growing up in San Antonio.
It was bad. It was real bad. I mean, there was times that we were separated because of it.
Even while training for a fight, he mainlined heroin 2, maybe 3 times a day, stopping only a few days before a bout. Still, Tony dominated in the ring.
Tony Ayala was ferocious. That's the best way to describe him.
But just as his dream of a title bout was about to become a reality, his life took a dramatic turn.
December 31st, January 1st of 1983, I abused of alcohol and heroin and cocaine. And the early morning hours of January 1st, New Year's Day, I broke into an apartment in New Jersey and I raped a woman.
The victim was a neighbor, and now, instead of wearing a championship belt, Tony was wearing handcuffs, convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison.
There came a point in time when I'm doing my time, and I'm having this ongoing argument with God. And it was these intimate, soul-searching conversations I had in my cell that eventually compelled me to seek out answers.
Tony's search led him to Dr. Brian Raditz, then director of psychology at Trenton State Prison.
I can honestly say that, I've treated thousands of patients over the last 21 years. I've never had anyone work as hard on himself as Tony did.
For the first time, he was able to talk about several incidents of sexual abuse as a child, committed by a family friend over a period of years, that which he now believes fueled his self-destructiveness.
Once I got into therapy, I was helped to backtrack and get to what I consider ground zero as to where everything starts going wrong. And that, for me, was it.
And those jailhouse sessions were the beginning of a long road back. The light at the end of the tunnel was to fight again. In late April of this year, with time off for good behavior, Ayala was free again after 16 years in prison. Dr. Raditz, Lisa Ayala, and other family members greeted him as he walked from prison, and within days, he took the first steps on his comeback trail. But Ayala is now 36 years old, and many experts fear he might have lost more than just time in prison.
The desire to prove his manhood was what fired him, was what really propelled him to treat an insult against a fighter like Jose Baltazar, such that when he knocked him out, he stood over him and spat on him. That was rage. I don't know how much internal rage he has left.
Today, a lot of people speculate that because of the therapy and the growth, the maturity, that perhaps the rage in the ring is no longer there. And I've been in the ring already, I've sparred, and I assure everyone that's still there.
Last month, Tony Ayala finally returned to the ring. 11,000 fans in his hometown of San Antonio chanted his name as Ayala stopped 21-year-old Manuel Esparza in 3 rounds. After the fight, Tony's manager called it the first step on a path that leads to Oscar De La Hoya. But first, another tune-up on September 24th against journeyman